Welcome back, Scroobies, to another episode of Ring Sessions with your hosts, Case Wine,
Big Shot Joe,
Captain Bill.
What are we talking about today, boys?
Beating the shit out of Joey. Oh, wait, no, you mean the topic.
No, that's next
topic
week.
of the day.
Oh, yeah, that's after the show.
The extra footage. Managers,
That's
ladies
right.
and gentlemen.
Managers and valets.
That's right.
The topic on hand.
Valets, okay.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Same category.
I already got my 5, bro.
Yes, we're going to talk about
Got your 5?
managers and valets and the importance.
All right.
The importance that they have in the world of pro wrestling. They may not be in-ring performers.
But they are part of the
And they're in some instances, they are just as important.
What they add
as
to the
wrestler.
character.
Exactly.
They bring out a lot in that character's image.
Absolutely.
A good manager or valet can make or break,
And if that manager's got a mouthpiece, you're golden. You don't have to talk on the mic.
Typically, that's why wrestlers usually have a manager,
Right.
because they're not necessarily the best
Talker.
talker. They're not the best,
Promoter.
Yeah, exactly. They don't do promo. They don't, they're not that great on the mic. You can be Bret Hart in the fucking ring, but if
Cat cut your tongue.
right, exactly. If you cut promo like Dexter Lumis,
He cuts a promo with his pen or his paintbrush.
He draws his words.
Well, you know what? No, that's not a fair analogy, because even though he doesn't speak a word, he still somehow manages to do a good promo.
His actions speak louder than his words.
Kali, here's a good example.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness,
That's what he says.
Ranjan Singh was his manager.
Look
The
at
great Kali says.
look at a perfect example. Look at Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Phenomenal in-ring performer, right? But
not great on the microphone.
no, he wasn't that great on the microphone
MVP.
until MVP. Yeah, until he got partnered up with MVP, and MVP became that mouthpiece for him.
He did become the mouthpiece.
And he did the talking, and it really, it gave that Lashley character something, that extra.
Oomph.
And what happens? He finally wins the WWE Championship.
Hey-o.
Now, if you notice, Bobby Lashley's gotten a lot better on the mic doing his own stuff.
He
Now,
kind of
doesn't-
has to now.
he doesn't have MVP. Well, he doesn't necessarily need MVP.
He had Leo Rush at first.
Oh, yeah, you remember that?
Man of the hour.
You remember that bullshit?
But, we're going
Glad
to
they
talk
got
about,
rid
like I
of
said,
it.
we're going to talk about just some different managers and valets here. And then we're each going to give,
Excuse me.
we're going to give
None of
our
y'all said
personal,
bless you. You pieces of work.
Bless you, Joey.
Yeah, you don't, tonight you haven't earned that one from me. And we're going to each give
I need my close-up, Mr.
our
Bubba.
choices, our top 5 picks for, our what we
managers.
consider, what we think, just 5 of the best all times.
Okay. Who's going first?
Our managers. Well, we don't have to jump right into picking our 5. We can just talk about, the managers. Jeez.
I'm just curious. Who's going first? You
Just,
said eat 5 apiece.
right. But we'll get to that. I thought you wanted to. Everyone, let's just discuss.
We are discussing the order of which. He's gonna fucking murder. Kyle,
That's why I'm in the middle.
I'm gonna use you
This
as
is
a
why
fucking,
I'm in the middle.
I'm gonna
folks.
use Kyle as a
Because
human shield.
if they were sitting next to each other, we wouldn't be able to get.
Oh no, I'd
Oh,
be dead,
wait.
ladies and gentlemen. He would shank me with the nearest fucking object.
I would have stabbed him repeatedly in the heart with a wooden spoon.
We've thought about this quite a bit.
Yeah.
Would
A
you
wooden spoon.
would you shank the wooden spoon?
No, I want it to be
shit.
dull, blunt, and painful.
So you gotta go many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways.
But the task at hand is managers.
Managers. So,
Throw one
again,
out.
you know,
Scary Sherry.
yeah, well,
That's a good one.
you know, so there,
Hulk Hogan!
Hulk Hogan was in there.
No, I was
You know,
referencing
you know, sometimes,
to...
some, you know, and there's been times that even great promo, you know, people, you know, who are good on the mic, can talk, still have that manager, because it just,
CM Punk
they don't necessarily,
with Paul Heyman.
when I think CM Punk, and one that immediately comes to mind is J.J. Dillon with the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
None of the
yeah.
Four Horsemen needed
Were they all good on the
a
mic?
manager.
Were
yeah, they could all talk.
Well, I know Ric Flair. Ric Flair
Ric
was
Flair
the
could
best.
talk to shit. Tully Blanchard could talk to
Was
shit.
the best.
Arn Anderson could talk to shit. You know.
What, Tully Blanchard, you said?
Yeah, they all could cut a promo. They all could talk the smack.
What about Lex Luger when he was in the Four Horsemen?
I mean,
That was a different time.
it was a different time, but Lex Luger wasn't bad on the mic. You know.
No?
No.
All right,
I mean, he wasn't. Nobody was like, you know, like, holy shit, did you see that promo that Lex Luger cut? But at the same time, they weren't, you know, talking about, dear God, this guy.
You know who was
It's
amazing
awful.
on the mic?
But hold on a second, I was just in the middle of talking about J.J. Dillon and the Four Horsemen, and you were just gonna jump off to a different subject.
See, this is what we're talking about, Joe.
We just discussed this before we started recording. You
All right.
people don't understand.
The anguish,
You
the
don't-
torment,
Anyhow.
the bill goes through.
J.J. Dillon, none of the Horsemen did not need a mouthpiece for them,
No.
but he still would talk, but he brought just
That extra.
that extra something, you know. They don't always need. Sometimes they don't use them to be able to talk. Another one that comes to mind, Paul Ellery.
Yeah.
The
Because
Road
Hulk and
Warriors
Animal,
did not need someone to talk for them.
they were able to talk shit on their own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They did not need a manager to cut promos and talk for them, but it just
go ahead, Bill. Get it
Added
to
to
us.
their character.
it added to them. You know, they there was other things that they brought. You know, to the table.
What a rush!
Whether it be to assist in underhanded tactics, you know,
They were awesome.
whether it to be to hand me something sharp to repeatedly stab Joey in the face, stuff like that, to give me a stick to beat him about the
This
head
is
and
going to be the
shoulders.
episode, folks. We are going to see.
Well, you know something, Captain Bill? You better bring your army, brother.
This will be the episode.
I don't even have to bring both
We're
of my
gonna
arms.
witness a live murder right here on this show. It's gonna happen. This,
All right.
this is the episode.
This is apparently my farewell video of existence. So
let's talk about more
look
managers.
at this. Look. Okay, go ahead.
We can be serious for a moment, bringing that back.
Oh yeah. Took that one out of the vault. We could be serious for a moment.
But
We were talking about Ellery.
yeah, Paul Ellery, J.J. Dillon, any others that come to mind, Kyle, that you can think of that were, you know, a manager or a valet for a wrestler that didn't necessarily need a manager or a valet to do their talking, but they brought a little something, you know, they brought something else. Another aspect that they added to.
You have to go with, obviously, our mascot, Miss Elizabeth, with the Macho Man.
Right, who barely spoke at all.
But she was the
The Mach.
valet. She wasn't a manager, she was a valet. But you couldn't have Macho Man without Miss Elizabeth.
Right.
Yeah, they're absolutely 100 on that.
First lady of wrestling.
And right.
She was gorgeous.
Now, me personally, I don't know how you guys feel. I guess sometimes I consider the valet to be just as important,
Yeah.
or it can be just as critical
They are.
as the manager, you know.
I'll give
It's
you.
part of the wardrobe.
Can I just give you a prime example of that?
Sure.
The Hardy Boys with Lita. Lita was their valet.
Right.
What do you mean? She was part of Team.
But she wasn't a valet, she was a wrestler.
Yeah, she was.
Okay, she She would,
But
but
Trish was a valet for TNA.
Yes. I got
That's an Albert if you didn't know what I meant.
Not total non-stop action.
No, right.
Sonny.
Tits and ass.
Sonny was a valet for the Road Warriors all the
I know, you
time.
won't me.
Right. Sonny was more of a valet than a wrestler. If you mentioned Lita,
She was more than a valet for some of the guys.
You know, in ECW, there was Dawn Marie.
Sunny Days.
Sunny Days, Bret Hart. And the old...
We're going off topic.
Yes. Let's take it back.
Let's go back to Miss Elizabeth, because that's what we were talking about with Macho Man.
Yeah, and she went on to do the same thing when she got paired at WCW when she was paired with Lex Luger.
Right.
Didn't she valet the entire NWO at one point? It's a
Not
valid
really.
question.
Not really.
I know she was with them at one point.
I know a woman and Miss Elizabeth was hanging around the Four Horsemen
Woo!
at one time.
All right. So, okay, but let's talk about managers, as you're saying. Let's talk about one that I think, with what you're saying, Bobby the Brain Heenan. He had a mouthpiece, but there were some of the guys he didn't have to use it. You know,
Right.
because he managed. I mean, he's
He
another
managed
one
a
like Jimmy
lot.
Hart and Paul Heyman. He managed a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, teams, solo competitors. I mean, Bobby the Brain had guys like Andre the Giant.
Right.
You know, and then he would go all the way down to gimmick wrestlers. You know,
He managed, I think he managed Brooklyn Brawler.
I'm sure he did.
I think so.
maybe as Doink.
But you know, yeah, and sometimes sometimes managers weren't necessarily even some of them weren't even ever wrestlers.
No, some of them were just. I mean, but then look at it this way. You want to talk about managers who was really cool? And I looked up some stuff after you told me this. Diamond Dallas Page. He started out as a manager.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to become a wrestler, in his 30s?
Yeah.
Mid-30s? He started late.
Yeah.
And had one of the greatest WCW runs of all time.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean Jimmy Hart. I don't think Jimmy. I don't believe Jimmy Hart was ever a wrestler. But
No,
know,
he wasn't. He wasn't.
Yeah, Jimmy Hart though he had that. He had that cool gimmick though. I mean, with the megaphone and.
Well, he had tag teams. He even was the
didn't
man.
just have tag teams.
Well, I know. I'm saying he had tag teams. He had Hulk Hogan in WCW. He was managing him.
He had Hulk Hogan in WWF.
He was his manager in WWF?
At one time, yeah.
I did not know that. Look at that. Look at that. So, I mean, but Hogan is another one who doesn't need a manager because he has a mouthpiece. So Jimmy Hart, I guess, maybe added a little extra for what, Hulkamania.
Yeah, it was.
Which was running wild, brother.
Yeah.
Brother.
Then there's, you have, there's some managers that had many different roles. Wrestling. They were a wrestler. They were a manager. They were an announcer. In some instances, they were referees and managers.
Yeah.
Teddy Long.
Teddy Long. I was just coming up with that one.
Remember old Rodney Mack?
Yeah.
They paired him up with Rodney Mack
and Mark
Henry. Yep.
There's been a lot of, some over the years, with some managers, they never really. They never really, were like super, did hits like super big, but they were memorable, like Slick in WWF.
Slick.
Mr. Fuji with Yokozuna.
Banzai.
Yeah.
Who were you going to say?
All right.
And when Mr. Fuji was a wrestler, he was managed by who? At one
I
time.
didn't go back that far.
Mr. Fuji, when he was a wrestler, he was managed by
son?
Classy Freddie Blassie.
Was he?
Yeah.
Pencil Night Geek.
That's what he used to say. Okay. I was going to actually say you had funny gimmicks too, though. Like when Kai and Tai was a 4-man group, they had Mr. Yamaguchi-san.
Yeah.
and then he won.
Choppa yo, pee.
That was it. That's what he's known for, cutting Val Venus's penis with a sword.
Yeah, Luna Vachon was the manager, whatever, for the oddities.
She was. She was also a badass.
She's freaking psychopath.
Tell Gangrel that.
Yeah, you talked about Sherry,
Scary
Sherry, also Sensational Sherry.
Multiple wrestlers.
But yeah, she
Hall of
managed,
Famer.
In fact, I think I have.
God rest her soul.
Right, shh.
I have right here.
He's got
Some
the
of
paperwork out. He's got his
Sensational
paperwork.
Sherry. Some of the people that she managed. She managed Randy Savage. She managed Ted DiBiase. She managed Shawn Michaels.
King Savage.
And
Harlem Heat.
Harlem Heat.
Hulk Hogan, we coming for you.
A lot of people don't know that.
What was the guy?
Nobody
the
still
Cowboy
don't
had?
know that.
They had a thing in WCW. Sensational Sherry. I forget his name. The guy in the cowboy hat that was managing Harlem Heat with her. Do you remember his name? I forget his name.
I do not.
No.
You would know. He's WCW.
Yeah, I'm
No,
not.
I don't recall.
I haven't got on.
I'll tell you who was a
You know,
great
Nitro Train
manager.
again. I gotta get back on that.
Buff Bagwell's mom.
Judy.
Judy Buffwell. Or Bagwell.
Well,
Was that his real mom? No shit.
you can consider. I'm sorry. I don't want to go on. I don't want to pull jump ahead, Joe.
Woo! All right.
I was gonna say Stacy Keebler was a valet for the Dudley Boys at one time.
Get the tables.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yes she was.
Talking about we're talking about all the classics in the past.
Dawn Marie with Tommy Dreamer and ECW.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beulah
Beulah.
McGillicuddy.
Beulah
Yeah,
McGill.
yeah, yeah. And then you had that old one that had a record, Missy Hyatt. She had a very big track record. And I'm not talking about being a manager for other stars.
Yeah.
Did, bro, what?
You know, and
Right up there with
but,
Sonny.
You know, it's funny because sometimes you can make make a name for yourself as a manager, and really only have, so let's say like one big claim to fame as a wrestler, but as a manager, but if it's the right situation, again, like, go back to what we were just talking about, Paul Ellery.
Yeah.
I mean, really, in all honesty, Paul Ellery,
Did they need
pretty
him?
much the Road Warriors. I mean, he did manage AOP, briefly in NXT and WWE, but pretty much most notably, he was the manager for the Road Warriors for most of their
Career.
career, and
Was he with them in WCW?
yeah.
Was he with them in the NWA?
Oh yeah.
Was he with them?
He always
in
had the
NWA?
rolled up paper,
He did. What the fuck was that paper?
That was kind of like his gimmick.
His
That was his thing.
Speaking about managers having objects, Mr. Fuji had
I
his.
know who you're gonna bring up.
Mr. Fuji had his cane. Jimmy Hart had his megaphone, and then you had that stupid racket.
Jim Cornette.
Jim freaking Cornette.
Who also was a mouthpiece for
Right.
a lot of tag teams.
Yeah.
What was with the tennis racket? He never took it out
was
of
his
his bag.
shtick. It
He
was
never
his
used
shtick.
it as a weapon.
Yes, he did.
Oh,
Yes, he
Oh,
did.
yes, he did.
He screwed over
For a
the
lot.
Rock and Roll Express many times.
Quite often. Back in the old NWA days, oh yeah, dude. He was quick to hit a bitch with that tennis racket.
He wouldn't hesitate.
Tennis racket.
Oh, absolutely.
But let's just real quick. Let's name off legendary, like ones that are going to be like the top 5 legendaries. Like real quick, just in your mind, these 5. Wrestling wouldn't be what it is without these 5 managers. Or
Well,
values.
I have what I consider my personal
Right,
top 5 managers of all time.
right. I have mine. Kyle.
I think I'm there.
Kyle's almost there, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, I'd like to hear who's your top 5.
All right. So if you want to go with top 5 and mainly because I love the gimmicks of the superstar, the wrestler, with how it went well with their character.
Go from 5 to 1.
That's true. Lead them up to the best. All right. So if I'm gonna go with 5, I'm gonna start with a valet. I'm gonna go with Sensational Sherry, just because of the track record of how many stars she was with, and she was damn good looking. She could act like a crazy bitch on the camera, you know, and she would just the managers are prominent parts of matches, so.
I mean, she
Anytime,
had a handful, but I mean, not.
I'm just saying, anytime.
She didn't have a long list of.
I'm just saying,
people that she
though.
was
Notable stars. Notable
yeah.
stars. I mean, Ric Flair.
She was never a manager for Ric Flair.
Yeah, but she's been a valet for Ric Flair. I'm just saying. She's been in
back in those days, I wouldn't consider those to be valets for Ric Flair. Those were back in those days with Ric Flair. They were arm pieces.
Okay, arm pieces. Well, she made a damn good arm piece for Ric Flair.
Yeah, I mean, because we had a woman that hung out with him. I mean, that was Ric Flair's shtick. He would get these chicks and just like hung out with him, but they weren't necessarily his valet because during that time they still had J.J. Dillon, but these chicks would still would be like accompanying him places.
Yes. Okay. So, I'm gonna go with. I didn't have a specific order. I was just naming off 5.
Yeah, well, I'm putting you on the spot, man. Go 5 to 1.
I see that. I see that.
Who's your next?
Okay.
Just go with it.
Ric Flair.
Huh?
Tell me Ric Flair did not manage Triple H when they were in Evolution.
I mean, I can't tell you you're wrong because these are your choices, but I mean, really, in all of the
Ric Flair, dude,
how many times? Managers?
Hold on a second. How many times Ric Flair being ringside for Triple H was a prominent part of that match? It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. I'm just naming.
I'm not saying Ric Flair wasn't good being ringside, helping out with other wrestlers, but
he was a manager for Triple H at one point.
So Ric Flair.
Okay.
You had great points. Who's your next one?
Pallbearer. Pallbearer. Let's just face it. He really doesn't need an explanation. The Undertaker wouldn't have become the character it is without Pallbearer. Pallbearer was like the cement or the glue that held the mold together.
Now Pallbearer is a legitimate. I think I consider Pallbearer to be a legitimate option.
Yep.
George your 4th.
My 4th, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with what's his name? Oh my gosh!
He's part of your 5. You don't know his name.
Yes. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm gonna go with
Who did he manage?
I'm gonna go with Vince McMahon. No, I'm just kidding.
It wouldn't surprise me, dude. We're talking about greatest managers of all time, and you
all right.
got Ric Flair at number 4.
Honestly,
dude,
Bobby the Brain Heenan is in that list.
Should be.
And we already talked about him.
So Bobby, you have Bobby the Brain as number 3?
Number 2.
Number 2.
You named 3 already. This is number 4.
Wait, Sensational Sherry, Ric Flair, Pallbearer. Okay, so Bobby Heenan is number 2.
And number 1 is Paul Heyman.
Wow. Okay.
In my opinion, Paul Heyman. And I don't think that one really needs an explanation because he's been a manager multiple times.
No. Again, John Joyce, I have to ask you, I have to ask you this.
It's mind-boggling.
Listen to me. I'm really honest because I'm not knocking you, dude. I legitimately am asking you this question because I want you to explain this to me. How are you putting
Ric Flair.
Yep. And Sensational Sherry? How do you consider them to be greater managers than Jim Cornette and Jimmy Hart?
I'm not saying that. I was just picking my favorite. my top 5 favorite. I didn't say the greatest of all time.
That kind of was the question. Who do you consider to be the 5 greatest of all time?
Well, then I stand by it.
You think Ric Flair is one of the top 5 greatest managers of all time?
It's a biased choice. It's a biased choice. I enjoyed...
But I'm just saying, you legitimately consider Ric Flair to be one of the top 5 greatest managers of all time, ahead of guys like Jimmy Hart and Jim Cornette.
Fine, let's take Ric Flair out.
I'm
trying
to understand. I'm trying to understand.
I explained why I picked Ric Flair.
You said he helped manage Triple H, and he was entertaining at ringside. That's what you gave me for Ric Flair.
Yes.
Yes, he did manage Triple H, and yes, he was entertaining ringside. I'm just trying to understand how managing Triple H and being entertaining ringside equates to Ric Flair being one of the greatest top 5 managers of all time.
Let me retract what I was saying. I enjoy Ric Flair as a manager, but he is not in the greatest list of managers of all time.
Ric Flair wasn't entertaining as a manager. Listen, man, I'm trying to understand here how you arrived at your choice of Ric Flair being one of the greatest managers of all time.
Ric Flair, even though Triple H was a rising star, Ric Flair, with the whole Evolution thing, and before it became Evolution, Ric Flair was turning Triple H into like a Ric Flair type, wearing the suits, talking about the women, the limousines, the jet riding, having that lifestyle. So you saw Ric Flair kind of passing that to Triple H for that. And then Ric Flair, I think that was cool that that gimmick kind of spilled in. Like Ric Flair.
Ric Flair was a wrestler and a member of Evolution. He wasn't the manager of Evolution.
He was the manager of Triple H, though, before Evolution. All I'm saying is that I enjoyed it when they paired up and he was with Hunter, and then they added Randy, they added Batista, which I felt like they all had a Ric Flair-esque presence when they did Evolution.
I'm not discrediting, I'm not debating that. I am simply, like I said, I'm trying to understand how you could consider Ric Flair to be a greater all-time manager than some of these other guys.
He might not be, but we're wasting way too much time on this question.
We're filming an episode where we are discussing and talking about managers, and I'm trying to have a discussion about a manager with you, and you're not wanting to have the discussion because you're getting angry because I'm just questioning. I'm trying to get you to explain.
You're debating.
I'm not debating, Joey. I'm trying to understand how you fucking arrived at Ric Flair being one of the top 5 greatest wrestlers of all time, and because he managed Triple H and was entertaining. Again, that is the reason you get. I'm just trying to understand how managing Triple H and being entertaining ringside makes him a better manager than someone like a Jim Cornette or a Jimmy Hart.
Put it like this. I didn't grow up watching certain guys, so I picked more or less things I've seen. So when I picked Bobby the Brain Heenan, it's because I saw old videos of him as a manager. When I picked Sensational Sherry,
but you're a wrestling fan.
I am a wrestling fan, but I didn't see all of Jimmy Cornette and all of Jimmy Hart stuff. I know about them, but I didn't see all that. So I went with what I've seen. So I've seen in 2002, when I was a little shit in 8th grade, 7th grade, whatever the fuck, and Ric Flair was managing Triple H. That's all I'm saying. I liked it that, he helped Triple H maintain the World Heavyweight Championship for as long as he did. I liked how Triple H was starting to get that Ric Flair vibe to his character. I thought it was entertaining. I thought he was a great manager, and then eventually he spawned off to start wrestling a lot more. So yeah, he was a member of Evolution. He was not the manager of Evolution, I'll agree with you. But I just liked him in that role where he was Triple H's manager. Now that's my explanation. I have no more to give on that subject. So, if that doesn't answer your question, I'm sorry. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Not really, but okay.
I explained why I didn't name Jimmy Hart and Cornette in my top 5. I just felt
I just don't necessarily think that you have to have watched them to be able to know what their body of work was and to, you know. You know what I'm saying?
I got you. Let's move on to Kyle's top 5.
Are we doing that now?
Yeah, we're doing that now.
Okay.
Do not pick anybody. That's gonna set him off.
No, Joey, it wasn't your choice that set me off. It was your being an asshole when I tried to make you, just trying to debate and to talk about and make you under, just trying to, okay.
I did. Watch the tape.
All right, yeah, no, super duper, folks. Let's go.
Okay, my number 5 guy was Bobby Heaton because he had the Heaton family.
Yep.
And he has a lot of history of being a manager. He managed a lot of guys. Number 4 would be Jimmy Hart because of the same reason. He managed a lot of superstars. And Hulk Hogan and
Honky Tonk Man.
Honky Tonk Man was one of them. Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Really?
Yeah, the Honky Tonk Man, Greg the Hammer Valentine with the tag team. The Hart Foundation.
I remember that, yeah.
Number 3 will be Miss Elizabeth for Macho Man because she was a definite staple in wrestling for the Macho Man and the Mega Powers and 4 Horsemen when she got to WCW. Number 2 for me will be Pallbearer because he is definitely an iconic image for any wrestling fan. He also managed, other than Undertaker, he also managed Vader and Mankind at one time.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And my number 1 manager will be Paul Heyman because of who he's wrestled and what he's done for the business.
Who's he wrestled?
Who he's managed.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I think he's been in a few matches, but he got his ass kicked a few times. So. All right, Kyle.
That was my 5.
And those are, I think those are actually five legit choices for managers. I do, you know, I can see, you know, anyone being able to make an argument for any of those 5 being, you know, being top 5. No, definitely for sure. Me, mine, it's my number 5 choice for just all-time great manager would be Classy Freddie Blassie.
Oh, you went old school.
Prince and a Geek. Again, yes, because I mean, I do remember seeing him later in his career, but also I know just his body of work. You know, looked up some of the people that he has managed in his career, which and here we go. Some of the more notable people that Freddie Blassie has managed: Adrian Adonis, Bad News Brown, Baron Von Raschke, Big John Studd, Blackjack Mulligan, Dick Murdoch, George the Animal Steel, Hercules Hernandez, Hulk Hogan, the Iron Sheik, Ivan Koloff, Jesse the Body Ventura, Kamala, King Kong Bundy, Mr. Fuji, Nikolai Volkov, Peter Maivia.
Really?
Professor Tora Tanaka, who some of you may not recognize that name, but he was a popular wrestler, and he also went on to become an actor. He was Sub-Zero in Running Man. Some of you might remember him in that role.
Really?
Yes. The Crippler, Ray Stevens, The original Sheik, who was also Sabu's uncle, and a lot of people believe was one of the innovators of that extreme style of wrestling. Skandar Akbar, who went on to become himself a very prominent manager who managed a lot of big name type people. Stan Hansen, a guy that went by Strong Kobayashi, who was a huge star in Japan. He was like one of their big guys. He was like on the same level as what's the guy? The one that Andre the Giant, had those matches. Inoki.
Oh, Antonio Inoki.
Inoki, yeah. I mean, he was on that level in Japan. A guy by the name went by the moniker of Waldo von Erich, who was the kayfabe in wrestling. He was the kayfabe brother of Fritz von Erich, who was the father of all the Von Erichs, Kerry, Kevin, and Mike.
Oh, really?
Yes. Killer Khan, who was this big guy this big wrestler who, he was a big rival with Andre the Giant. In fact, him and Andre the Giant in 1981, Killer Khan and Andre the Giant were voted to, not only they were voted as feud of the year, was Killer Khan and Andre the Giant, but they also had match of the year in 1981. Hangman Bobby Jaggers, another old school wrestler, but a prominent name, and a guy named Victor Rivera, who again, old school, never saw him wrestle, but if you looked man up and looked up his credentials, in WWF, the guy won championships up into the double digit numbers. So these were like old school, big time guys that, had not just good careers, had immensely successful careers. And this is just some of the more prominent ones that Freddie Blassie managed. And he had a career that went, into him being, an old man, and just, in the 80s, and like I said, the pencil neck geek thing, that he was entertaining, cracked me up. But, I put him at number 5. Number 4, I have Paul Heyman. Same thing, I have some of the prominent names that Paul Heyman has managed in his career. Arn Anderson, Austin Idol, Bobby Eaton of Midnight Express, Brock Lesnar, Bubba Ray Dudley as a singles competitor, Cesaro, Charlie Haas, CM Punk, Curtis Axel, Devon Dudley as a singles competitor, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, Fatu, he was the manager of Fatu, who was part of the Anoa'i family. I don't remember exactly how he's related to the Usos and Roman.
I think he's Rikishi's
But,
brother.
he was a manager with him twice. He was manager of Heydrich. He managed Jimmy Superfly Snuka. He managed Kurt Angle, Larry Zbyszko. He managed Mean Mark Callis. He managed Rick Rude, Roman Reigns, Ryback, Sabu, Shelton Benjamin, Stone Cold Steve Austin before he was Stone Cold Steve Austin, Taz, Big Show, Tommy Rich. He was manager of Team Angle. He was manager of the Alliance, of the Dangerous Alliance, and now the Bloodline. So again, that's a pretty impressive resume. And that's not all of the people he did. These are just the bigger names.
The prominent.
So Paul Heyman is my number 3.
Wow.
My number 4, excuse me. Number 3, Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Again, here's some of the wrestlers and tag teams that he managed. The Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, the Macho Man, Sting, Ted DiBiase, Stan Hansen, Ric Flair, Abdullah the Butcher, Superstar Billy Graham, Adrian Adonis, Austin Idol, Vader, Barbarian, Big Bubba, Big Boss Man, Terry Funk, Bobby Eaton, Brutus Beefcake, Brian Knobbs from the Nasty Boys, Bret Hart, Dino Bravo, Typhoon, and Earthquake as solo competitors, Tommy Rich, The Giant, before he was Big Show. This is in WCW. Greg Valentine, Honky Tonk Man, The Iron Sheik, Hugh Morris, Hulk Hogan, IRS, Jerry the King Lawler, Jim Neidhart as a solo competitor, Kamala, Kevin Sullivan, Coco Beware, Conan, Johnny Grunge from Public Enemy, The Assassins, The Hart Foundation, Lanny Poffo, Macho Man's father, Lex Luger, Mabel, Ming, The Missing Link, Money Incorporated, the Mounties, the Nasty Boys, the Natural Disasters, the One Man Gang, Rick Rude, Paul Ellery, and Sabu. These are some of the people Jimmy Hart managed. Again, pretty impressive resume of competitors that he managed. My number 2 is Jim Cornette. Now here's some of the people, again, some of the people that he managed. Buddy Landell, Christopher Daniels, Jeff Jarrett, Yokozuna, the British Bulldog, Owen Hart, Vader, Dan Severn, Matt Morgan, who is now the mayor of Longwood, Mark Henry, Dutch Mantell, Adam Pearce from Raw.
No shit.
Hercules Hernandez, Dick Murdoch, Barry Windham. He managed Sherry Martel. In fact, Sherry Martel was Jim Cornette's very first client as a manager. He was 21 years old. This was in 1982.
No shit.
Crusher Broomfield, who went on to become the One Man Gang, and then Akeem, the African Dream.
I remember him.
He managed and was most famous for the Midnight Express. He managed the Fabulous Ones, the Dynamic Dudes, the Rock and Roll Express, the Headhunters, Owen Hart and Yokozuna. He managed Crush and Yokozuna. He managed the British Bulldog and Owen Hart. He managed the Briscoe brothers, not Jack and Jerry, but the current Briscoe brothers that are with TNA right now. And he managed, as a tag team, Jeff Jarrett and Barry Windham. Jim Cornette has managed people in NWA, WCW, WWF/WWE, TNA, and he managed and ran Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Again, impressive career as a manager. It's Jim Cornette, number 2. And my number 1 manager of all time, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Here's some of his guys: Big Cat Ernie Ladd, Mr. Perfect, Mr. Wonderful, Ric Flair, Buddy Rose, Rick Rude, Adrian Adonis, Andre the Giant, Angelo Poffo. Oh, excuse me, Angelo Poffo was
the father.
Lanny Poffo was the brother.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Sorry, Lanny Poffo was. Who did Lanny Poffo?
Cornette or
No.
Hart?
Jimmy Hart. Yeah, Angelo Poffo was the dad, and that's Bobby the Brain Heenan. Austin Idol, the Barbarian, Baron Von Raschke, Big John Studd, Blackjack Mulligan, Blackjack Lanza, who together they formed the team, the Blackjacks, which he also managed. The Brainbusters, Tully and Arn Anderson, the Islanders, Hangman Bobby Jaggers, Brooklyn Brawler, Bobby Duncombe, Haku, Hercules Hernandez, Ken Patera, King Harley Race, King Kong Bundy, Missy Link, Nick Bockwinkel, Toro Tanaka, who, like I said, was Running Man, and he was Sub-Zero and Running Man, Stan Hansen, Terry Taylor, and Tamatonga, who is also, I believe, I think he's part of that, the Samoan family. So, and then not only that, Bobby the Brain Heenan,
He had a mouthpiece.
he had a mouthpiece, and he was one of, Bobby the Brain Heenan also was one of the, I consider him to be one of the greatest announcers, too, of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Commentators.
Him and Gorilla Monsoon were
So that's
amazing.
my choice. 5-1. Freddie Blassie, Paul Heyman, Jimmy Hart, Jim Cornette, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
It's a very good list.
And again, as like I said, and even with all these guys, that's not all of the people they manage. Those are just some of the more notable and prominent names.
Yeah.
And that's a list of, for each one of these people, that's a list of a lot of Hall of Fame worthy guys.
Right. They are.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, you look at it, like we said, the job of the managers was to get the stars over, and those guys were able to get the job done, and they did get them over. It falls on the star, too, to get themselves over, but the manager gets them over.
yes.
It's really like as if you're looking to put a tag team together, only a tag team in a different way.
You were talking about Pallbearer being yours.
Percy White
he's
was
part
his-
of my Percy Pringle,
Pringle.
which I remember him as Percy Pringle also. But I have my list with my honorable mentions. I have a few of those, and on that one, it's Vicky Guerrero is one of them.
Oh,
Believe it or
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I mean, Edge, Ziggler, Nyla Rose currently, Andrade, Layla, Jack Swagger, Michelle McCool. So the people she managed, Pallbearer and Percy Pringle, he didn't take her. Kane, Vader, Mankind. As Percy Pringle, he managed Steve Austin and Rick Rude. Sonny, some of the people that she was valet manager for: Shane Douglas, Lex Luger, the Smoking Guns, Bam Bam Bigelow, LOD, Ron Simmons, Chris Candido, and then Teddy Long, which we mentioned. Johnny B. Bad, Jazz,
Not
D'Lo
Shawn
Brown,
Michaels.
Mark Henry, Skyscrapers, and Doom, which Doom was Ron Simmons and Butch Reed.
Didn't Sonny manage Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart
No, she never.
at the same time?
She didn't manage Shawn Michaels. She
She was managing something.
She did things with Shawn Michaels.
And the British Bulldog. Anywho.
That's Ring Sessions Managers.
Yeah.
Hit that subscribe button.
Ring the bell if you haven't ran away yet. Give us the
Dwindling
thumbs
down.
up.
Yeah. Hopefully we entertained you in this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of entertainment.
Ric Flair, greatest of all time.
I'm going to repeatedly punch you in the face.
I know.
It's coming
With a wooden spoon.
with a wooden spoon. Thanks for joining us, folks. Tune again next time right here on... You have anything else to add?
What the fuck? You were almost there, Kyle.
Because every
Why
time I
would
get to
you
that part, you interrupt me.
Why would you stop? Go ahead.
We'll see you next time right here on the 3,
2,
1.
Screw!
We're going to send that off so I can beat the shit out of you.
Subscribe!
Ric Flair was a good manager.